Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for joining. There's quite a bit of people on here. I'm so excited. So we have quite a bit of things to go over. Um, I'm going to flip my camera to my desk area so you can kind of see what I'm working on. There we go. So I'm also in Houston, Texas, where it's not 52 degrees. It's like 70 or 80. I don't really know. It's kind of warm. But I am going to show you a couple things that I have on my desk that we're going to work with. And then you can get your materials together if you're wanting to follow along. But this is the workbook that was provided to you when you signed up. It's a couple of pages long, and we're kind of just going to go through it. And then I have my pin of some zebra Mildliner brush pins. So they're these. I have a couple of I have some click art pins as well that we're gonna use. That's just like kind of like a monoline pin. And then let me see. I wanted to really quickly, if you guys are interested in like a holiday lettering workbook that I just uploaded today, I can give you 20% off if you enter this code on my website, and I'll put that in the chat in a little bit. And then Zebra is getting, they have a giveaway for their mild liner. So if you want to go to their social media page and enter, there's that information. And then here's my social media if you're interested in checking that out. So I'll leave those papers there. So we're gonna get started. I'm gonna take one of my brush pens. And so these are really good for brush lettering. So the reason they're brush pens is because of the nib. You can see that it kind of resembles like a paintbrush. And these are really good because they are flexible, so they can create thick and thin strokes when you're using them. And they're made for pushing down and using a lot of pressure on them. So they're not going to break on you unless you're just like really being rough. So the way that I like to hold my brush pen, this is probably like one of the most important things when you're learning how to do this. I kind of like to hold it towards the middle of the pen, and I lay my hand flat on the paper. So when you see me moving, I'm pushing down or I'm not pushing down. Like it's all depending on the pressure that I'm putting down. I'm not moving this. I'm not going like up and down or moving that, because then your nib is going to get kind of like wonky looking like that. So literally just keep your palm down on the paper. Hold it where you're comfortable, maybe closer to the middle so you have a little bit more free range, and that's how you're just gonna move it very gently. You can see that I'm barely moving my hand. So that's gonna be really, really important when we start practicing. And then if you guys have any questions about the lettering specifically, you can put it in the chat, and then somebody will kind of tell me to look at the chat because I'll kind of forget. But I'll answer any questions that you guys have. So this first page is just basic strokes. So whenever you're first learning how to letter, these are like the practice drills that you're really going to have to do in order to be able to create that brush lettering effect. So again, I'm going to hold my brush pen kind of closer to the middle, and I put some arrows to show you kind of where to start your stroke. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to push down. And you can kind of hear the marker because I'm pushing down pretty hard on there to create that thick stroke. And then for the thin stroke, we're going to start from the bottom and go up. And I'm barely going to push on my pin. I'm keeping my hand in the same place, but I'm barely pushing down. And this is meant for you to go very slowly and not rush through it. And when I show you how to do letters and words and stuff, you're going to see how slow I actually do, slow I actually letter. So this one, we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to go really thin. And then about right here, you're going to push down. So really thin. And this seems to be a tough stroke for people to do. because it's hard to go from thick to thin or thin to thick. But the more you practice, like you can see that one came out a little bit wiggly, but it's okay. That's why we're practicing. We're gonna go down. And you can even break up the strokes if you would like. If I take a second pin, you can kind of see that's where I end up. And then I'll do my thin one from there. Kind of just helps you see where I change that pressure of my pen. Now, my favorite one to practice is this stroke, just because I always felt like it was the easiest, not the easiest one, but the one that helped me the most with gaining my muscle memory when I was learning how to letter. I've been lettering since 2016 is kind of when I started practicing. And all of my sketchbooks and journals were full of this specific stroke because it just helped me gain that muscle memory of when to do a thin stroke, when to do a thick stroke. The more you practice, the less you have to think about where the thick and the thin strokes go. Because that is the hardest part, and that's why people get so stuck on it because they have a hard time thinking about where those strokes go. But when I would practice this stroke right here, I would tell myself, like in my head, I just made up a little, not a rhyme, but just something that would help me. I would say thick to thin, thick to thin. And that's kind of how I just kept practicing that stuff, and it really helped. So if you are a beginner, I definitely suggest that you do a lot of this first before you jump into making letters and words and all of that, because it will help a lot. So for our letters, I didn't put too much like letter practice in here just because we wanted to make it more about how to use this for planners and things, but I wanted to quickly go over it with you. Um, and we're gonna kind of make it like how to practice letters and how to connect letters together. So that's why I kind of made the alphabet all in one long line. So whenever I am drawing my letters, there's my thick to thin. I always pick up my pen after each stroke. So that's really going to help you um, learn how to letter, because you can't think about lettering like your handwriting. With when we're doing our handwriting, we're kind of just scribbling really fast and going as fast as possible, but lettering is more of like drawing the letters. So it's very different. And then when I like to connect my letters, I like to make my tails really long. Like you can see where that one landed. So then I can connect the next one. And there's my really long tail like that. And then you can just keep connecting. So when you're going down on a letter, you make it really thick. When you're going up, it's really thin. But you can kind of, I'm trying to like exaggerate how I pick up my pen to make the next stroke so you guys can see that it's not all just one big loop. Let me do that first, then I'll go up. And you can see the really long tail in order to connect the next letter. Another thing I forgot to mention, which I always mention in all of my lettering classes, is that I taught myself how to do this. So I don't really follow the traditional rules of lettering. And so I kind of just made this up on my own, and with a mix of watching a bunch of YouTube videos over the years and now TikToks and things like that. But I like to see this more as of a something fun and creative to do, and not something where I have to follow all of the rules and guidelines and whatever other things that you might see on social media and things. Because that could be very overwhelming. So we're just gonna have fun. Again, like I said, there's no rules to this. Once you learn how to do like this basic stuff here, then you are gonna be able to make your own style of, oh, I just realized I'm like these letters are wrong. Okay, let's keep going. Once you learn how to do all of this basic stuff, then you are going to be able to stylize it yourself and figure out, what kind of style of letters you like, and the fonts and the, embellishments and all of that. All of that comes with a lot of practice. So I did want to include, again, like the connecting the letters, I wanted to include the days of the week, again, because I'm assuming a lot of you guys are planner people, or you use journals a lot and things like that. So this is something you can practice. And if you have like tracing paper, this would be probably a good place to use that. Um, but again, the workbook, you can reprint it as many times as you want. So again, we're going to take our brush pen, and I want to show you again how I make all these different strokes, and you can see that it's not just one fluid thing. With the long tails to connect your letters. And then I also, like I said, because I don't follow rules, sometimes I just use um, printed letters, like the T in Tuesday. I'll just do that instead of a cursive letter, just because I don't know what a capital T would look like in lettering. I know what it looks like in cursive, and it doesn't look really cute. So I think this looks better. So again, it's just you do whatever you want to do. It's your own personal style. The same with the W's. You can see even the F here for Friday. It's almost like a flick. Whenever after every letter, you can kind of just flick it to make that really long, nice tail. Yes, I'm using the Mildliner brush pens. I just see the chat. These are the brush pens, and it also comes with like the dual tip here. But I love these brush pens. I prefer pens that are more firm with the nib, rather than loose ones. So this one it just gives you more control, especially if you're a beginner. It's not as like wiggly. I don't know how else to describe that. But there are some brush pens that just are harder to control. And I really enjoy these because you can make really big words like this, or you can use them because the nib is it's so controlled, you can kind of make something a little bit smaller too. So you can use it. It's very easy to use for different purposes. You can see that it can be big or it can be small, which a lot of brush pens don't really do that. So I really love these zebra mild liners. They come in a variety of colors. I like very colorful things. very bright colors. So I enjoy that they have these bright colors that we could use. Says somebody in the comments, so the holiday lettering workbook, it's from my website. I have some workbooks on there that are digital downloads that you guys can go on there and check out. And then here's a coupon code for 20% off. And then if you go on Zebra Pin's social media, they're doing a Mildliner giveaway. And then here's my social media in case y'all are interested in checking that out. Okay, so like I said earlier, I love color. I love adding color to my lettering. And so I want to show you a couple of easy ways to do that. Now, I want to go to the next page really quick and then we'll come back to this one. I like to reference the color wheel a lot when I'm teaching people about color because it helps you visualize what colors can go together. And I think a lot of people sometimes have problems with figuring that out, and then they put colors together that don't really go and it doesn't look that nice. So when we're looking at the color wheel, this is a very basic one, but just colors that are next to each other on the color wheel will blend together. So orange and red, orange and yellow, but colors that are opposite of the color wheel will not blend. So if we put green and red together, you'll most likely get brown, or blue and orange will get brown. But those can also be contrasting colors. So if, Christmas is green and red, it is that way because they can kind of stand out on their own, but we won't ever blend them together. So another reason why I love these Mildliners is because of their ability to blend really well. So I want to show you really quick how I blend using these brush pens. So I'm going to do yellow and orange really quick. So I'm just going to add some color in. I always like to start off with the lightest color first when we're blending things. And then I overlap my darker color. And then I like to come back with my lighter color and actually blend it out. Now, depending on what kind of paper you're using, it may or may not fray a little bit, but you can kind of see how it blended there a little bit. The same thing with, let's see, I'm gonna do, let's read these two. So these two would be next to each other technically on the color wheel. And then overlap it a little bit. Go back with the lighter color. You can kind of see how those colors are blending. So it's just a matter of always starting with the lighter color and then overlapping your colors a little bit. And then that should help you blend as long as you're using the correct colors on here, okay? And then colors that are opposite to each other, like the blue and orange, like we said, those are contrasting colors, but when you put them together, not blended, they stand out really well. So think of this as like lettering something with a blue marker and then doing your like little embellishments with an orange one. It'll make it stand out. My favorite contrasting colors to use are yellow and purple. I think that looks so good. Love, this is my favorite colored brush pen from Mildliner. It's their lavender color. This one's my favorite color, I think. But it's this kind of like bluish, yellowish color, but have those two. And then again, like we said, Christmas colors, red and green, which I'll do a turquoise. So these, when we put these two colors together, they're always stand out on their own. And then the blended colors, make sure to pick something that's next to each other on the color wheel for that. So I'm gonna go back to this previous page. So I want to show you how you can blend using these Mildliner brush pens in different ways. So if we do it horizontally, again, I'm going to pick colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Let's see. And I always like to have these like little sticky notes next to each other, and I'm constantly swatching colors. Because again, color is one of the important things to me. Let's see. I'm gonna do this pink and light purple. So I'm using the, let's see, violet and fuchsia colors. So I'm gonna start with, this one seems to be a little bit lighter than the pink. So what I'm gonna do is just letter over this. Since we're doing it horizontally, I'll probably do about half of it purple and then half of it pink. So I think I'm gonna do a little bit of the M and stop there. And again, if we want to blend it, we need to overlap it a little bit. So I'm just going to overlap a little bit. I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to take this other color and just kind of blend it out. Maybe add it to the pink. Now this is also something that you can do with like a water brush, or even, I mean, just a regular paintbrush with a little bit of water, but any of these like water brush pens that you add water to it, just add a little bit of water in between here because these are water-based pens. They will blend like watercolors do basically. So that would be a really cool, as long as you're using like a watercolor paper or something thicker, that would really work. And then to do a vertical blend, again, what I like to do is go with my lightest color and letter the entire word. And then I'll go back with my second color. And about halfway, I will just add a hint of that color. Can be a little tricky, but it gives you a pretty cool effect. And again, if you had a water brush, you could do this and then get your water and place it like in between these little lines. But since we're not using that today, we can use it with your brush pen, just kind of go over it again. Almost use this almost like a paintbrush, like if you're moving the ink up a little bit. And you can kind of see that effect as you're doing it. And I'm kind of even going over that pink just to really blend it out really well, but you can see a pretty cool blend there. And then for the blending palette, that's a really cool little effect to use too. So I have just this little like porcelain bowl, but I mean, you can use anything from like any little plastic thing that you have, a Ziploc bag. And so what I'm going to do, I guess I'll use these two colors again. I'm gonna put down some of this color on my blending palette. And then with your lighter color, you're gonna pick it up and you're gonna kind of see that your brush pen has a little bit of that other color on it. But once you put it down, you'll kind of be able to see. Let's see how that's kind of blending. So I'm gonna do maybe a darker color. It's dark purple. So, pick it up. And you can see how your brush pen gets a little bit of that color. I'll just show you like on the side here, but you can see that cool effect that it gives. You have, again, you have to be able to pick the right colors. Obviously this lavender and the pink maybe didn't work so well. It needs to be a little bit more contrasting, but you can see how cool that looks if you pick the right colors. And then, you know, you don't have to worry about your brush pen like staying dirty like this. You can always just kind of wipe it off on a separate sheet of paper, and then it's pretty much back to normal. So I really love using that. That's probably the easiest way to have like a cool blending effect with your brush pens. Um, so let me put some of these. All right. And we did this. Okay, now this is going to be the last page, and then we're going to talk about how to add stuff like this to our planners and things. So shadows. So if you've ever seen any of my artwork, I love adding shadows. To me, it's like the easiest way to give a really nice effect to your lettering. So I'm just going to, so the first one is just a plain gray shadow. So let me write this out first. So when we think about shadows, I have this little visual that I use in my classes. When we think about shadows and adding shadows, you have to make sure that you're consistent with where you're adding them. And so for me, I prefer to add it to the right side of my letters. So whenever I am adding them, I always think about like where the sun would be hitting in order for where the shadows can, so they can be consistent. So I always think about the sun coming this way, so my shadows are always going to be on the right side of the letter. Now you can choose where you would like your shadows. Just always have that sun pictured in your head and visualizing where those shadows would be so that it's consistent. And so I'll leave that there. This be considered bounce lettering. So I do teach bounce lettering. I'm reading the chat right now. Somebody asked, would this be considered bounce lettering? I mean, it could. Like I said, I letter the way that I just feel more comfortable, and that's just kind of how I do it now. But I do teach bounce lettering in a different class that physically shows you how to bounce. But like if you look at like this, I mean, this could be considered bounce because it kind of goes under the baseline that, you know, people talk about when it comes to rules and stuff. So I mean, it could be, yes, but again, that's just the way that I like to letter. But we're not learning specifically how to bounce letter. Okay, so for the shadows, I'm gonna take, so I like this light gray color. I think it's just regular gray. Make sure. Okay. And so again, I'm gonna put everything on the right side of my letters. I might even use, this is a good, if you have smaller lettering like this, having the dual tip on this marker really, really helps with that. So I'm just gonna add it. You can kind of see it. Kind of small. And always remember to do like these little flicks on the sides. This one right here. You can kind of see that. It needs to be a little bit thicker, but it's just the idea of it. And you can always play with the colors or what kind of shadows to add. This would be a cool time to add a contrasting color to this to make it your shadow, or a darker color. Again, it's important to remember, again, the color wheel when we're adding shadows like this. You wouldn't want to add like a color that's too similar to this because then it won't stand out. It's going to look kind of messy. And then the next one is an outline with an empty shadow, which is one of my favorites. Do this color. So I'm actually going to take this Sarasa clip black pen and do this one. So what I'm gonna do for this one is just add like an outline around this word, which is another thing that I really enjoy doing with my lettering. I feel like it makes it stand out a lot more, especially if you're using like a lighter color. Do the insides. And then we're gonna do kind of like a 3D letter with this one. So I'm gonna, the same spots on the right side of the letter, I'm just gonna do kind of like a little block lettering like that. Just adding lines where the shadows would naturally go. Okay. And then you can kind of see that little, that one's probably, again, another one of my favorites to do. And then a colored shadow, if we just did, let's see, I'm gonna do a contrasting color so you guys can kind of see. I'll do this red. I'm gonna try to do a green. We'll see how that comes out. These are not typically the colors that I would go with, but let's see. Okay. So again, on the right side, this might not be very cute. You can see how much those colors stand out from each other. Okay, well, it doesn't look too bad, but those are contrasting colors again, so you can see how they stand out. If we would have done something like a red and an orange, that probably wouldn't have been a sufficient shadow for it. It would have been too similar looking, so just be aware of that when you're adding shadows to your lettering. And then the last one, embellishments. So just some very easy things that you can add to your lettering to make them stand out a little bit more, especially when you're starting to do maybe like phrases or like if you're doing bullet journaling and you're doing titles for your journal. This is something that you can add to it. Let's see. So my go-to is always these little, like, I don't even know what they're called, little raindrop things. Especially for like one word, or if I'm doing like a 3-word phrase, the word that stands out to me the most or that I want to emphasize is where I add these little embellishments to it. You can see how I turn my paper so I can really make sure I'm doing it well. And the same with these can be used to emphasize words. They're just very, very simple things that you can add to your lettering. And then I like to do these little line things. And then for this one specifically, like if you had a paint pen or a gel pen or something, you can add some little embellishments within your letters. Or if you had a darker color, like maybe this one, Then you can add embellishments within your letters this way. Especially if you're doing like maybe some thicker or bigger letters with thicker strokes. This would be a good way to add some decoration to it. Very simple. And then the same with this one, just some little lines that you can use. And then use the dual tip part, the thinner part of your marker, to add those details. Okay. So those are just simple things. Does anybody have tips for left-handed people? So obviously I'm right-handed, but I have tried to look up some tips for lefties. One thing that I have seen is because I'm right-handed, I write like with my paper tilted to the right. I have seen that if you tilt yours to the left and almost like use your pinky as like um a stationary, like to put it down on the paper and write that way like your lettering kind of goes straight at an angle, if that makes sense. Or if you put a piece of paper under your palm, so as you're writing it can like move with it and your hand isn't smearing the marker and stuff, so you can just kind of do that and see if that helps. And I think it just depends on what kind of pens you're using. Like these don't really smear as far as I've seen. Um, Pretty much like any water-based pen is going to be okay. It's if you're using more of like gel pens or um paint pens, especially, like those might be the ones that are going to smear more. So just be aware of what kinds of pens you're using. But I mean, there's a lot of YouTube videos and things of tips for left-handed people that I've watched just so I can have somewhat of an idea to help you guys out. But those are the two that really stood out to me. So hopefully that kind of helps, just putting a piece of paper under yourself as you're writing. Okay, so we have about 20 minutes left. So I wanted to show you guys. Now that we've done the workbook, I wanted to show you like how I incorporate that within my planner. So this is like the picture that you guys saw when you signed up. So I made this with, like I said, all the Mildliners and this black Sarasa clip and like, I forgot what these are called. Anybody from Zebra? What are these called? But they're like the Japanese thin pins.
Japanese brush pens.
Oh, okay. Japanese brush pins. That was simple enough. Yeah, everything's in Japanese in here, so it doesn't have a name. But these are really good for like these small, like your headers and stuff like that. So this is what I use. Oh, and I also use some of their metallic brush pins, which are really, really cool. So this is kind of like how I did my December layout. So if you guys have a planner or bullet journal, or even just a piece of paper, we can kind of just play around with how I did that and my process of how to get that started. So I like to print out my own, just like little grid papers like this. Like I don't like fonts or anything because obviously I want to hand letter everything. And then I have like my happy planner little staple punch thingy that I just put into my own planner because I like to make my layouts the way I like them. It's hard for me to find a planner that I actually enjoy. So this is just something that I made online. I printed it out and then I decorate it and then put it in my planner. So I'm gonna put this aside. And then when I'm planning out what I'm going to do, for me, the most important thing is colors. Like, what colors am I going to use? What colors do I like? Because if I don't use the right colors, then I feel like everything's ruined. Like, that's just like, and I give up. So I swatch so many colors. So, like, when I was thinking about like my Christmas spread, like what colors to me are Christmas. And so I started swatching everything and I finally came up with this one with like the metallics here, and you can see how shiny those are. They're really nice. Um, and then I come up with like what sort of elements I want to draw on my pages, what kind of quotes, I look up a bunch of different quotes that I want. I practice it because again, I'm not a perfectionist in that like it needs to be perfect, but I'm a perfectionist in that it needs to be cute, and if it's not cute, I give up. So, I like to practice everything beforehand. And so when you're looking for colors, again, you can reference the color wheel and figuring out like what colors would work for you. Like these are typically like the colors that I go for, these like more jewel toned colors and things. So one of the rule of thumbs that I like to use, especially for lettering specifically, is having a color that's like lighter and darker. So like this pink, like these two, that would be the lighter and the darker one. Same with this, the lighter and the darker one, so that I have a variety of shadows and different embellishments that I can add and things. Um, so that's typically like how I choose my colors, is always having like a pair like that. Okay. And then I like to outline a lot and do a lot of shadows. So like a good black outlining pen is always a must for me. And then since we are doing like more Christmassy things, I did choose a metallic. Um, and so I'm gonna stick to these colors. They're different from the ones that are in my um in the sample that I showed you guys, but it's okay. So this is how it would look on my planner. Um, what size tip is your black pen? This black pen, it's a 0.5. I typically like a 0.7 a little bit more, because I just like my outlines to be a little bit more bold. But this one's a really good gel pen. I mean, you can even use like this as your outliner because it's so thin, we can barely see it. Because you can create lots of thin and thick strokes with this one. Here's my little, so you can like push down really hard or you can make it really thin. So, and this is like a firmer tip. I don't, again, doesn't say what, it says 150, but I have another one that's a little bit looser. That's, for me, it's harder to control. So when you're, especially when you're buying, I mean, any brand of these Japanese brush pens, these smaller ones, just be careful with, like this is thicker and this is fine. Some of them just tend to be a little bit too loose and it's harder to control, especially if you're a beginner. So I would definitely stick to something more firmer. Let's see. So you can start with a pencil if you like. I typically don't. I just like to go in and then I get really upset if I mess up, but it's okay. So I'm gonna write the word December again, like how it was in my sample, but I'm just gonna use these colorful colors instead. Let's see. I typically like to put them in like rainbow orders, so I think that's good. And then if you want, sometimes I use like a ruler just to make sure like my letters are all even. Okay. I might even do like a cursive, like an actual lettering. And the good thing about these sheets that I make myself is that if I mess up, I can just print another one. But I have found, let's see, I'll show you guys right now. I have this like extra leftover sticker paper from a time where I attempted to make sticker sheets and I hated it. So I have all the sticker paper left. So I realized like this would be another good alternative. Like if you have your actual planner and you were too scared to write directly on your planner because you were scared to mess up, I think sticker paper would be amazing because then you can just cut it out and place it on there. But if you keep messing up, you can just keep redoing it instead of directly in your planner. So if that's something that scares you, ooh, am I spelling this right? Yes. I think that's a good alternative for you to use. I might add some more colors. I'll just do the whole rainbow. And I'm using that blend that we learned earlier. So I'm kind of like overlapped a little bit. And the good thing about these zebra pins too is if you want a more brighter color, you can just kind of go over them again. So there is my title for my page. Let's see. I think I'm gonna outline it. So yeah, the sticker paper would be really good option for those who are just practicing, maybe even for bullet journaling, make your own stickers. That would be really cool. And in case you mess up, it's not that big of a deal, especially inside of a journal. I love buying journals, but the moment that I mess up in it, it's over for me. I can't do it anymore. And I've always wanted to try to bullet journal, but if I mess up in it and I have to tear the paper out, I get so upset. So for me, this was a good alternative to just print out my own little layouts. And then I can decorate them the way I want. Okay. How do I get that holiday workbook? Oh yes, let me put that code. I'll go ahead and put the code to the holiday workbook in the chat if you're interested. So I can show you guys really quick. Okay. So if you're interested in the holiday workbook, this is what it looks like. Everything is in this like gray tracing kind of thing. You get letters, how to practice letters, different words with different types of lettering. These tiny ones in case you want to make Christmas tags or cards or something. Some more phrases. I even included some doodles that you can practice, a big page. Oh, and that's just another one. So it's about 11 pages of it, not including the cover. But if you guys are interested in seeing that, I just put that in the chat. Let's see. Okay, so what time is it? 1:50. Okay. So I usually leave this like little thing over here to kind of add to-do list or goals or notes. And so let's see. Now I don't know what colors to use. Oh yeah, if you guys want to see the workbook too, here's a code for 20% off. I have not advertised it to anybody yet because I wasn't going to release it until Friday, but I thought today would be a great day for that. So you guys are the first to see that. Okay, so let me see. So too, whenever I'm picking out like what colors to use, I don't like I was about to write to do right here, but there's already green here. So I'm going to go like maybe to an orange. I'm very funny about the colors that I use. See, and this would be a good spot to like make your own little stickers and do that. I made that a little too big, but it's okay. You can just see like how outlining it, especially with these lighter colors, like the big difference that it makes. Like it really just makes it stand out. Do you create your own blank planner page? Yes. So I just literally this is a table that I made in Canva and I just make it like the lightest possible color ever. with the lines and stuff. And then this is just part of a merge table and I just print them out. And then I just hole punch them into my little, with this thing, into my little happy planner disc thing. And so just because, like I said, I can't ever find a planner that I like. And so I just bought these and just started printing out my own pages, and I made my own, um, what are these called? Tabs. I made my own like divider tab things out of scrapbook paper and I laminated them. So I just kind of made something that I wanted. Because I mean, I love buying planners, y'all. Like, y'all should see my stack of planners and journals. I have a ginormous stack, but I've never written in them because I'm too scared and I just can't keep up with it. So this is like an easy way for me to do that. What weight paper? Oh, so I like to print my, especially my planner stuff, but I like to print it in a 32 point. Let me see if I have the pack. It's an HP paper. So this is what I would recommend. It's HP Premium 32. If you've taken any of my in-person classes, this is the paper that I always print my workbooks in. It's very smooth. It's a little bit thicker than copy paper, but not as thick as cardstock. And it's pretty inexpensive. Like, I've had that pack for almost 2 years and you see there's a ton of it in there. So that's usually what I print all my stuff. And it's really good for brush pens because you're not gonna fray them. Because these can be really sensitive, especially when we're doing blending and things. If we keep using it to color, that's hard on them. And you're gonna get very like yucky kind of fraying on it. Okay. So again, I like to put like, oh, we have 5 minutes. Okay. I like to put, I'll just show you guys like the to-do stuff here, goals, like anything that you guys need, whatever. This can be, a section for it. Even if you have a planner and you don't like certain sections, like that was always my problem, get sticker paper and create your own sections and then just cut it out and cover it. Like, that's a great alternative for that. And then I like to add quotes. So these are just some of the, and in the workbook that I have out for you guys, you can even try to do that in your planner. So I have a bunch of quotes in there for Christmas. But again, I like to make my own planner pages because I like the space to be able to write whatever I want on there. So I have a quote there. Anytime that there is space, like the 31st is on a Tuesday, so then we have all this extra space, this extra row down here. There's a great spot for a quote, for some doodles. All of my like little entry things are always going to be cute for the most part. And so that's just a great place to put quotes into practice. And you can see the pretty metallic-y markers, which are these right here. I don't know where my silver one is, but these are the zebra brush pen, the metallic ones, and they're also brush pens, and they're really, really shiny and they're really nice. Now they do have a larger nib, but you can make it smaller if you just put a little bit of pressure on them. But these are really nice. They come in a bunch of colors plus silver, which I don't know where it's at, but so yeah, these are really nice if you want to try those, especially for the holidays. It gives it a nice little shine to it. Okay. I don't have time to keep drawing, but does anybody have any questions about anything? I'll leave, here's that. There's that. And then if you want to enter a giveaway for some Mildliners, which are the ones that I was using, you can go to Zebra Pen's social media and check that out. It should be like a pin post at the very top of their page. And then here's my social media if you want to go follow me. I'm planning on making a lot of more free resources for lettering. So if you guys want to follow me, I have a newsletter that you can subscribe to, where I send stuff out occasionally. And again, the holiday workbook. Share your project with them. Okay. Yes, if you want to share what you practice with today, there's some hashtags in the chat. And then you can also share it with me because I would love to see what you guys are making. Um, thank you guys for being here. It was a lot of fun. I had fun decorating today with you guys. Um, feel free to, if you want to leave me feedback, if you go to the link in my bio on my Instagram, I have like a little form in there that you can leave me a review. I'm happy to hear any feedback. Anything will help me. So I appreciate you guys being here and taking the time to hang out with me on a Monday afternoon. So thank you guys so much. I'm glad y'all liked it. All right. I think we're done. Thank you.